Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching the news where we bring you details of all the developments happening across the world and in India as well. Let's begin with the headlines first. India-Mauritius summit talks in Gandhinagar. India assures Mauritius all help in its post-COVID economic revival. Healthcare in India has potential to become the biggest brand for health heal in India, Prime Minister says at the opening ceremony of the Global Ayush Investment and Innovation Conference in Gandhinagar. Ensuring ease of living for tribals and women, priority of the government, says Prime Minister Modi at Adijati Mahasammelan in Dahod. Development projects worth 22,000 crore rupees related to water supply and smart city inaugurated. Surge in COVID-19 cases, over 2,000 new cases reported in 24 hours. Centre asks 5 states to increase surveillance. Meeting on Assam-Arunachal Pradesh border dispute in Guwahati. District-level committees to be formed to resolve border disputes and undertake joint surveys. Let's now take a quick look at some more important news. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says India's reforms before and after pandemic has kept it among the fastest growing economies in the world. Two-day grand event to mark 400th Prakash Guru Parv of Guru Tegh Bahadur begins in Red Fort. Prime Minister Modi to address the nation on Thursday. India gets its 6th Scorpene-class submarine INS Vagshir in Mumbai. Prime Minister Modi to confer awards for excellence in public administration 2021 on Thursday. At UNSC, India reiterates call for the immediate cessation of violence in Ukraine. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla calls Vietnam one of India's closest partner, an important pillar of its Act East policy and India-Pacific vision. World Bank to provide emergency support to Sri Lanka amidst its economic crisis. UAE updates entry and residence scheme to attract global talent and flexibility of job market. Methane explosions at coal mine in South Poland kill 4 people and injure 19. And Biden administration to launch $6 billion effort to save nuclear power plants at risk of closing. Let's now take a look at some important news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday said India will soon launch the Ayush mark to recognize traditional medicine products, which will give the authenticity to quality Ayush products of the country. The Prime Minister was speaking after the inauguration of the 3-day Global Ayush Investment and Innovation Summit at Mahatma Mandir in Gandhinagar, Gujarat, in the presence of Mauritius Prime Minister Pravind Jugnauth and WHO Director General Dr. Tedros.
$3 बिलियन से भी कम आज ये बढ़कर $18 बिलियन को भी पार कर गया है। जिस प्रकार पूरी दुनिया में आयुष प्रोडक्ट्स की मांग बढ़ रही है, उससे ये ग्रोथ आने वाले वर्षों में और ज्यादा बढ़ेगी।
The Prime Minister on Wednesday launched the Ayush Export Promotion Council through virtual medium. He also flagged up information technology initiatives like Ayush Informatics Center, Ayush Next and Ayush FD. Addressing the event, Prime Minister of Mauritius Pravind Kumar Jugnauth said India is already the pharmacy of the world. He added that India will also emerge as a leader in Ayush, Ayurveda and traditional systems of medicine.
The initiation of this project by Sri Modi ji translates into reality his vision to offer to the world a new way of healing the suffering of people. For Sri Modi ji, the whole world is a family, Vasudeva Kutumbakam.
Director General of World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, said India will reach the entire world through its Ayush Center. He said Ayush industry is growing at the rate of 17% every year since 2014, and it is expected to be worth $23 billion by the end of this year.
Long-term strategic investments, along with government commitment, are needed to support the innovation ecosystem for health in general and traditional medicine in particular. Second, for innovators, industry, and governments to develop traditional medicines in a sustainable, environmentally sensitive, and equitable manner.
And for more on this, we're joined by our colleague Teena Jha. Teena, good evening. A lot of potential there when we are talking about Ayush products and the Ayush industry. Two aspects which we would like to understand. One is vis-a-vis its effects and effectiveness, which is being recognized globally, and also the business and entrepreneurship part there. How will it help the Indian economy?
Good evening, Vishal. Since childhood, all of us are taught that health is wealth. But prominently, if you see, the true sense, the true importance of these three words have dwelled upon the world majorly in the last 2 years when we have been reeling under the impact of the COVID pandemic, an unprecedented health crisis that the world witnessed in more than a century. And the importance that the world has now begun to understand of holistic health and well-being. It's this holistic health and well-being that Ayurveda promotes and provides. It's an age-old traditional medicine system which all of us are aware about, all of us Indians to say. And it's this because of which we are seeing a lot of global acceptance towards this traditional system of medicines. So to encash upon the expertise that India has in this particular field and also to make Heal in India popular, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday laid the foundation stone of the Global Center for Traditional Medicine in Jamnagar in Gujarat in the presence of the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, and the Mauritian Prime Minister who was physically present at the event. There were also Prime Ministers and leaders of our neighboring countries who also spoke at the event virtually. So what India has been trying to do through this GCTM, which is the first of its kind center for traditional medicine, is that it seeks to provide, to encash the opportunity of course, utilizing its age-old expertise in the system, at the same time provide alternate, better solutions to the world. And this has two benefits, Vishal. So prominently, number one, because it is in line with the Indian foreign policy, which is based on the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So the world is one family. We are already called the pharmacy of the world. And now we want to use this opportunity in partnership with the World Health Organization to also promote wellness and health, holistic health and wellness to the people of the world. Secondly, it has huge economic benefits. So currently, the turnover of the Ayush industry is a little over $18 billion. And if we look back since 2014, when Ayush was actually made into a separate ministry, before that it was a separate department. So then the turnover was roughly around $3 billion. So over the last 8 years, per year growth of the Ayush industry has been around 17.7%, and which is significant. So there is huge economic potential which India wants to obviously utilize to its benefits. And because of that, today's event, the Investment and Innovation Summit, which again the Prime Minister addressed today in the presence of the WHO DG and the Mauritian Prime Minister, where the purpose was to actually make aware all entrepreneurs, the stakeholders, all business leaders, the industry leaders, about the huge potential that this sector has, and to make sure that the colossal growth of this sector is maintained in the times to come as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Teena, out there. Indeed, a lot of potential when we talk about India's traditional system of medicine. Moving on, India has promised to provide all possible help to Mauritius in the post-COVID economic revival. The Ayush Center of Excellence will also be opened by India in Mauritius, in which traditional medicines will also be supplied by India. Prime Minister Modi gave this assurance at a delegation-level meeting with the Prime Minister of Mauritius, Kumar in Gandhinagar. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said the two leaders also discussed cooperation in the field of development and defence and ways to increase people-to-people contact between the two nations. The centre has asked 5 states to increase surveillance in view of the new cases of COVID-19. Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan has written to Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Maharashtra and Mizoram advising necessary measures for prompt and effective management of COVID and monitor the spread of infection. He emphasized the 5 strategies of test, track, treat, vaccination and following COVID-friendly behaviour. Wearing of masks has been made mandatory in view of the rise in COVID cases in Delhi. Violators will be fined 500 rupees. Also, schools have been asked not to close down. A separate SOP will be implemented on the advice taken from experts for running the schools. More than 2,000 new COVID cases have been reported in the country in a day. The number of patients under treatment also increased to 12,340. Over 187 crore doses of anti-COVID vaccines have been given so far under the nationwide vaccination campaign. Dahiya in Gujarat will soon become a big centre for Make in India, assured Prime Minister Modi while addressing the Adijati Mahasammelan on Wednesday. He said an electric locomotive railway factory worth 20,000 crore rupees is being set up, which will make the region a hub for the Make in India initiative. The Prime Minister laid foundation stone for development projects worth 22,000 crore rupees for the development of Dahiya and Panchmahal. He also launched the Dahiya District Southern Region Water Supply Scheme and 5 projects of Dahiya's Smart City. The Prime Minister said the water project will make lives of women of hundreds of villages of Dahiya easier.
जिन परियोजनाओं का आज उद्घाटन हुआ है, उनमें एक पेयजल से जुड़ी योजना है और दूसरी दाहोद को स्मार्ट सिटी बनाने से जुड़े कई प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं। पानी के इस प्रोजेक्ट से दाहोद के सैकड़ों गांवों की माताओं बहनों का जीवन बहुत आसान होने वाला है।
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that one big step that the government decided was not to levy tax on people to get out of the pandemic. She reiterated that country's revenue to rescue the economy was not going to come from taxing people, hence no COVID tax was levied on anyone. The Finance Minister was speaking at an event organized by Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. The Finance Minister also held a meeting with Financial Stability Board Chair Klaus Knott on the sidelines of IMF World Bank Spring Meetings 2022 in Washington, D.C. During the meeting, Sitharaman and Klaus Knott exchanged views on the dimensions of risk in crypto ecosystem as well. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das also attended the G20 Emerging Market Economies meeting. During the meeting, Nirmala Sitharaman said there is an urgent need for coordinated action across countries to not only enable swift post-pandemic recovery but also to build resilience to future shocks. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla visited Ha Long Bay, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Quang Ninh province in Vietnam. He was received by the party secretary of the province. Both leaders discussed avenues to increase cooperation in tourism, trade, Ayurveda and yoga. Om Birla also inaugurated 4 new air service routes between India and Vietnam. Addressing a meeting of the G20 Emerging Market Economies EMEs, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on Wednesday underscored the need for coordinated global action for rapid revival after the pandemic. Finance Minister said immediate steps are necessary to counter setbacks in the future. Nirmala Sitharaman also spoke on the economic outlook, risks and near-term challenges for EMEs. The Defence Ministry has utilised 65.5% of the capital budget on indigenous procurement. The ministry said it has been successful in achieving the target of utilising 64% of the capital acquisition budget for the domestic industry. The ministry also stated that it has been able to utilise 99.5% of the defence services budget in 2021-22. Crude oil production in 2021-22 stood at 296.9 million tonnes, 2.63% less than the last year. The shortfall has been attributed to below target production by public sector. ONGC. Natural gas production, however, has increased in the same period due to commencement of production from some new fields of the KG basin of Reliance BP. The Supreme Court ordered a stay on the anti-encroachment drive of the administration in violence at Jahangirpuri area of Delhi. The apex court also agreed to hear a petition challenging the action of the civic bodies allegedly aimed against the riot accused. Violence clashes took place in Jahangirpuri on Saturday, in which 8 policemen and a local resident were injured. Majgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited commissioned INS Wakshir in Mumbai. This is the 6th and last submarine under Project 75. The submarine will undergo extensive rigorous testing for a year to ensure it is fully combat ready. We'll take a short break here, but on the other side, how France is gearing up for the presidential debate between Macron and Le Pen.
Glorious journey of India's 75 years of independence, protection of rights, ensuring equality, to empower, to deliver justice. Laws that have defined India and its people, laws that everyone should know. Watch 75 years, laws that shaped India. With me, Hemant Batra, only on Sansad TV.
मज़हब नहीं सिखाता आपस में बैर रखना, हिंदी है हम वतन है हिंदुस्तान हमारा, इकबाल साहब का ही ये शेर है। उसी को लेकर हम चल रहे हैं आगे इस एकम सत प्रस्तुति में।
Welcome back. Let's begin with all the updates from the war front in Ukraine. Russia has presented Ukraine with a draft document outlining its demands as part of peace talks and is now awaiting a response from Kiev. It said the draft document contains absolutely clear, elaborate wording to Ukraine. Ukraine presented Russia with its own draft last month in Istanbul, where the two sides held talks aimed at ending the conflict. The German government and military have rejected an assertion by Ukraine that the country could spare armored fighting vehicles for Kiev. Germany said it needs the vehicles for deployments on NATO's eastern flank. Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that Germany is reaching the limits of possible weapons deliveries from its own stocks and will finance Ukrainian purchase of equipment from a list drawn up by the German defense industry. Russia's deadline for Ukrainian forces holding out in Mariupol to surrender has passed. In its latest ultimatum, Moscow called on the troops in the city's Azovstal steel plant to lay down their arms. Mariupol Mayor Boychenko has urged residents to leave the city. Boychenko appealed to people who had already left Mariupol to contact relatives still in the city and urged them to evacuate. The UN's refugee agency, UNHCR, says more than 5 million people have fled Ukraine since Russia launched its invasion on 24th of February. More than half of those who have left, about 2.8 million, fled to Poland. An estimated 7 million people have also been displaced within Ukraine amid Moscow's offensive. And now some news from other parts of the world as well. Police enforced a curfew on Wednesday in Sri Lankan town where an anti-government demonstrator was killed. The death triggered international condemnation even as the crisis-hit country is seeking an IMF bailout to overcome its economic crisis.
Thousands of people across Sri Lanka took to the streets on Wednesday, a day after police opened fire on demonstrators, killing one person and injuring 13 others. Protesters blocked key roads in many parts of the country as they demonstrated against the shooting as well as rising fuel prices and the government's failure to resolve the deepening economic problems. The shooting was the first by Sri Lankan security forces during weeks of protests. The shooting occurred on Tuesday in Rambukana, 19 kilometers northeast of Colombo. 15 police officers were also admitted to a hospital with minor injuries after clashes with protesters. The police shooting triggered instant global condemnation. While the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka appointed a 3-member team to investigate the incident, the US ambassador to the country called for a full, transparent investigation. The British High Commissioner called for restraint and an independent probe into the incident. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen are going head-to-head in a live TV debate tonight. The debate is expected to prove crucial in making up the minds of undecided voters just 4 days before the French presidential runoff.
Residents of Paris have their attention set on the upcoming debate between French President Emmanuel Macron and rival Marine Le Pen. In the climax of France's presidential campaign, centrist Macron and far-right contender Le Pen will meet in a one-on-one TV debate that promises to be tough for both. Some compared it to a returning football fixture, while others wanted to hear the pair's thoughts on topics close to their heart.
I have the feeling that it's more about a TV show, no? Like people are expecting it like a football game or something like this. Like they want. We have the memory of 5 years before there was the same clash between the two of them with Marine Le Pen, who did a very poor performance. Even she conceded it. So everybody wants to see the revenge, but I don't think that's going to influence a lot the vote because they are so opposed and they have different vision for France. So I think it's not going to change a lot. People have already in mind what they're going to vote.
It could also prove decisive ahead of Sunday's runoff vote. In 2017, a similar debate struck a decisive blow to Le Pen's campaign. She had looked hesitant, consulting notes piled up in front of her, appeared to lose her composure and made basic mistakes on economic topics, which Macron pounced on. This time, Macron has emerged ahead from the April 10 first round and is leading in opinion polls. But Le Pen has significantly narrowed the gap compared to 2017. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And in some other news from across the world, Japan formally revoked Russia's most favored nation trade status on Wednesday over its invasion of Ukraine. The move is in line with Tokyo's decision to step up sanctions amid revelations of the Russian military's widespread atrocities against civilians. The revocation of Russia's trade status by Japan's parliament, combined with other sanctions collectively imposed by other countries, is expected to intensify pressure on Russia, but the move could also prompt reprisals from Moscow. Yemen's internationally recognized presidential council was sworn in on Tuesday in the southern port city of Aden. The swearing-in took place before the parliament in a ceremony attended by foreign ambassadors and the US and United Nations envoys to Yemen. The council is chaired by Rashad Al-Alimi, a former interior minister. A British judge on Wednesday formally approved the extradition of Julian Assange to the United States to face spying charges. The case will now go to Britain's interior minister for a decision, though the WikiLeaks founder still has legal avenues of appeal. China's business hub, Shanghai, has reported 7 more deaths due to COVID-19, taking the death toll to 17 amid signs of a declining trend in fresh cases. More than 14,000 people were discharged from makeshift hospitals in Shanghai. On Tuesday, 12,000 were from the biggest makeshift field hospital built inside Shanghai National Exhibition and Convention Center, where 50,000 beds are available for people who test positive but have few or no symptoms. Mandatory evacuations were ordered for Arizona residents near Mount Union. The U.S. Forest Service said in a statement that the fire has burnt about 500 acres in rugged terrain fields with brush, pine and mixed conifer trees. Department of officials said Fire crews, engines and aircrafts have been working to suppress the flames. 6 Rohingya refugees from Myanmar, including 2 children, were killed after being hit by vehicles on a Malaysian highway as hundreds fled an immigration detention center where a riot broke out early on Wednesday.
Malaysian immigration officials on Wednesday said most of the roughly 500 Rohingya refugees who escaped from detention following a protest have been rearrested. 528 Rohingyas fled after breaking a block door and barrier grill at a temporary detention center in northern Penang state. Police and other agencies were deployed and 362 detainees have been rearrested, the department said in a statement. Penang police chief told local media that 6 detainees were killed while trying to cross a highway. The victims included 2 men, 2 women, a boy and a girl. Malaysia doesn't grant refugee status, but the country houses 180,000 refugees and asylum seekers accredited with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And now it's the turn of some key news from the world of sports. Starting with cricket, the 32nd match of IPL 15 is being played between Delhi Capitals and Punjab Kings in Mumbai. This match was originally scheduled to be played in Pune, but an outbreak of COVID-19 in the Delhi Capitals team forced BCCI to shift the venue to prevent a further spread of the virus. Punjab Kings are placed 7th and Delhi Capitals are on the 8th spot in the points table. In IPL 15's 31st match played at the DY Patil Stadium last night, Royal Challengers Bangalore defeated Lucknow Super Giants by 18 runs to move to the second point in the points table. Royal Challengers Bangalore scored 181 for 6, owing mainly to a brilliant 96 from their captain. Virat Kohli's poor run continued. He was out for a knot on first ball. Hazelwood's 4 for 25 hindered Lucknow's chase, giving RCB its 5th victory in 7 matches. Russian tennis players will be banned from competing at this year's Wimbledon in response to the country's invasion of Ukraine, according to a report. If the ban is confirmed, stars including world number 2 Daniil Medvedev and number 8 Andrei Rublev would be prevented from playing in the 3rd Grand Slam of 2022. The All England Club, which holds the tournament in southwest London this summer, would become the first tennis organisation to refuse Russian players outright. Moving to football now, Manchester United were blown away 4-0 by Liverpool at Anfield to go on top of the EPL points table. Mohamed Salah scored twice and Luis Diaz and Sadio Mane were also on target. Liverpool moved 2 points ahead of Manchester City at the top of the table, but still needs the English champions to slip up in their remaining 7 league games of the season to win the title. Brazilian soccer great Pelé is hospitalized again as he continues to receive treatment for cancer. Pelé is being treated at Sao Paulo's Albert Einstein Hospital. Pelé's clinical condition is good and stable, and he is likely to be discharged in the next few days, doctors said. The 81-year-old had a tumor removed from his colon in September last year and has since been in and out of the hospital for treatment on a regular basis. And before we bring this bulletin to an end, let's take a quick look at the headlines once again. India-Mauritius summit talks in Gandhinagar. India assures Mauritius all help in its post-COVID economic revival. Healthcare in India has potential to become the biggest brand for Heal in India. Prime Minister says at the opening ceremony of the Global Ayush Investment and Innovation Conference in Gandhinagar. Ensuring ease of living for tribals and women, priority of the government, says Prime Minister Modi at Adijati Mahasammelan in Dahod. Development projects worth 22,000 crore rupees related to water supply and smart city also inaugurated. Surge in COVID-19 cases, over 2,000 new cases reported in 24 hours. Centre asks 5 states to increase surveillance. Meeting on Assam-Arunachal Pradesh border dispute in Guwahati. District-level committees to be formed to resolve border disputes and undertake joint surveys. That's all we have in this edition of the news. We'll come back again tomorrow. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.